Our Lindsay's, right, what she panics, right? If it's past 5:30, she imagines people at home who haven't. Yeah. Yeah, we're live now? Right, okay, there you go, Lindsay. Evening, everyone. Yeah, thanks for joining us here at the Customs House, which is a change, because normally we're at 1 Trinity Green, just up the road where we're based at Far North. My name's Ian Farrar, and we're live streaming as well at home, so we'll be on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or X, as the cool kids say.
X.
So yes, if you're at home, feel free to interact. Misha might even throw your comment on screen. So all mod cons. Actually, today when I was setting up, we've now got a button where it says it automatically touches up your appearance.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. So you can just pop that one on for me. Just yeah. And you've been busy all day, man, haven't you? He's been rehearsing all day. Right, and so who's at our business talks for the first time? Yeah, where have you been? Working, yes, I know. You've been helping all of us travel, is that right? Yes, thank you for that. First time at the Customs House, anybody? No.
I'm very pleased to see that.
Thank goodness. So I'm joined here with Ray Spencer MBE. So about 45 minutes we'll have a chat.
All right.
And then we'll take a few questions from the floor if anybody wants to chip in. I was looking back at some of the stuff we've done in the past, and I seem to always do a quiz with you.
Yes.
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 So you've done, let's have a look, we've done a pantomime quiz.
Yes.
We've done a comedy quiz, British comedy.
Right.
But today I've got a different one for you.
Oh, joy.
So that's okay. And actually, I was putting as I was looking back at some of the stuff we've done, I put a little promo video together. I don't know if you saw it. Some of the stuff we've done.
I did. One of us had aged.
1-1. Okay. I put it out, and someone said it was Kirsty. She said that their annual Christmas trip to the Customs House won't be the same. You retiring. Dame Bella's a family favourite, and Ray'll be a huge miss.
Mm.
So I'd say, well, actually, he's still going to be in Panto. So she said, well, that's bloody brilliant news. Before I even read your post properly, a post went out in her family WhatsApp group, and there was tears all round. Yeah. Wow.
Well, isn't that lovely?
Isn't it lovely? So I think we need to put put Kirsty and everybody at ease. What's going on? Tell us about the retirement.
Well, I love what I do. I love the place that I work. I love the community that we serve and the stories that we make happen. And by that, I don't mean just the plays that we do, but the stories of people's personal development. That's what really floats me boat. And I love that. What I'm less keen on is when bits of the building drop off or the drains get blocked or somebody rings me up to say somebody's on the roof or, robbing the bar or, any of those things. I'm less keen on those these days. So I am officially a pensioner now. So next year I turn 67. And I just decided, make room for other people. That's what I decided. Though they then asked me if I would have a rolling contract for 3 years. I have to say there's 3 trustees in the room. I think it's so I'm hoping to go until I'm 70 and then see how it is, whether people still want me and whether I know what I'm doing or, just wandering around the stage aimlessly.
Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit? I want to hear about the Customs House a little bit in terms of like what happens next and the setup and the organisation, but maybe just for people who might not know you too much at home, tell us a little bit about your career, kind of where it started and how it's kind of got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm a Bidacall lad. I was born in Bidacall, actually, in the house that I was brought up in. And my journey to here is kind of the journey of what happened to the Northeast economy. As my dad worked in the shipyard just down here, ship repair yard, next to where we are now. My 2 brothers, one worked on the yards, and the other one was a fitter, so he was in manufacturing as well. My mum worked at Wright's Biscuit Factory, manufacturing as well. And now I work in the arts and culture. and a lot of people do. A lot of people don't do those making things, those putting nuts and bolts together, having those very great skills that you need to do those. That doesn't happen anymore. And for years, growing up in South Tyneside, they never levied. Used to be able to levy tuppence in the pound for the arts. South Tyneside Council never levied that. And I always originally came up against politicians who said, well, I don't really know, you know what I mean? It's not like a proper job. And I could understand that, because when I told my dad, one, that I didn't want to work in the yards, and he said, well, why not? Brought a family up. And I said, well, yeah, it's also giving you industrial deafness, white finger, bet knee, and you're absolutely knackered at 57. Which he was, and died by the time he was 62. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go down a different route. And I started training as an accountant, actually, with the health service. And then I did a musical with Alan Price, who was a Jarrow musician, which went out on the BBC. And the people who were working on that said, you should do this, actually. You're all right. You should do this. So I went off to do a degree. And I remember that conversation with me dad, who was a corker burner from the yards, saying, Dad, you know, I didn't want to do an apprenticeship. And then I got a white collar job. And now I'm going to give that up and go and be an actor. He laughed and laughed and laughed. But it's what I did. And in the end, it worked out all right for me, because I've been working here since 1995, actually. I've been running the place since January 2000. I was appointed in October 1999, so last century. Whenever I say anything to them, I've got 4 kids. Whenever I have an argument with any of my children, they always turn around and say, what do you know, Dad? You were born in the middle of last century. And that's true. I was born in 1957. So kind of, you look at the jobs now that people have, that people had when I was growing up, and people have now. I mean, what was a life coach? Do you know what I mean? Those sort of jobs didn't exist, did they? They just didn't exist. People made things. People got up early, got on a bus all together, went there all day, and then came back on a bus all together, and then went to a workman's club all together, and played bowls all together. Do you know, it was a very close community, and it was self-policing community. Those communities aren't there anymore, those big groups of people who work in big factories. It's not there. So now we're much more spread out, and that's why you need events like this to give people an opportunity to come together. So I came here, and when I the reason I got here is friends of mine, Tom Kelly, who's a playwright, and John Miles, the late great John Miles, who made beautiful music. We took a musical to Edinburgh Festival, and then brought it to Customs House. And while we're in Edinburgh Festival, we decided that the story that we should write was the story of Tom and Catherine Cookson's life, but not one of our books about their life, because it was a fascinating life. And we did that, and we brought it to the Customs House, the idea, in February 1999. And we took it on the telly, and it sold out. So we did a bit with Mike Neville on local news channel, and it sold out, the 14 performances. And that had never happened at Customs House. So then in the September of that year, I remember the person running this building then took us in to an office and said, you'll be wanting to pay the actors and musicians at the end of the week. I said, well, that's how it works. So well, all that money that you took in February, we've used up to run the place. We haven't got any money. I said, what are you going to do? They said, well, we're going to have to tell the council that we're going to shut the shop. And they went to the council, and the council said, you can't shut the shop. And we put on the show, and that was a success. And then the Arts Council asked us to come for dinner. Now, I don't know how many other people have been asked to go for lunch with members of the Arts Council in this room. Certainly, I didn't know anybody from Biddick who'd been asked. And I realized that the conversation was about an interview, really. That's what it was. And then I had massive interview with loads of people to actually go through the process with lots of, about 4 other people, but a huge panel. You'd think I was being Secretary General of the United Nations. There was just so many people in the room. Anyway, I think the thing that swung it, they said to me, in a minute, tell us how you would sell the place to other people. And I must have done all right with that because they offered us the job. And then came the hard work. So again, we all want the jobs, don't we, when we go for them? We want them, and then we get the job and go, oh my giddy aunt, what have I taken on here? And I took on the job and went to the little office across the road, and there was a strategic stock take that had been done by the Arts Council from London that sent 2 consultants up. And I was reading that, and actually what it said was the Customs House has neither regional or national significance, so is not worthy of our support. That is what I read on day 1. And it was just like, what? Because I needed to get into that club, the Arts Council club, to get money to come to South Tyneside. And it's taken us a quarter of a century to get the level of support for South Tyneside, because we've been what's called a national portfolio organisation. That's a regular funded organisation on our own in South Tyneside for 100 million years. But now we have the library service, we have Beads World, and we have the museum service all get money from the national portfolio. And that's good because it's taxpayers' money. And why didn't South Shields and South Tyneside in general get their share? Because the spend by the government for the people of South Tyneside on cultural activities was less than £3 a head. You crossed over the barrier into Gateshead, it was £45 a head. You can't tell me that's right. And people from Gateshead, I remember having this argument with Arts Council. Arts Council said, but people from South Tyneside should be grateful that they can go and use all of the resources that are in Newcastle and Gateshead without having to pay for them. And I said, let me put you right there, buddy lad, because everybody pays taxes and our taxes are being used to fund those places. I mean, we now get £200,000 a year. It sounds massive. The Sage gets over £3 million a year. You know, so we've done well in South Tyneside to get money, but we're still not getting the sort of level of money that South Tyneside should get, I think, for the development work we do. I'll tell you a quick story.
You can tell he's retiring, can't you? He's like, right, it's all coming out there now. No, go on.
When I went, I was fairly naive, I have to say, when I started going to the Arts Council, and it was in a place called Great Peter Street in Westminster. Very, very posh, you know, mews, and they had an outside upstairs balcony that you went out, and a patio, I think it was called, where you went and had drinks and nibbles. This was for a meeting. I just didn't know it. Customs House couldn't afford to stay over for those meetings. So I used to get the earliest train out in Newcastle. I'm sure you've all done it, and get there and then get across from King's Cross to Great Peter Street to get in the room. And the first meeting that I had, because I wrote a report saying why I didn't like the report they had written, so they invited me down to this meeting. And it was a huge room, oak panelled, with a big sculpture of Lord Goodman in one side. And all of these people sitting in front of us, the people there, and I was last in because I was late because I couldn't get the train. Anyway, so I got in and I sat at the end of this long table, and they were all introducing themselves. They were all there to ask for money. So it was like, you know, I'm Sir Ian Holt from Birmingham Symphonia, and I'm Caroline Wells from the Royal Shakespeare Company, and you know, Lord Goodman's brother from Covent Garden, and they all came down the row and they got to me, and I said, I'm Ray Spencer, I'm from the Customs House. And imagine you're me, because this is what I saw from everybody in the room who'd been going to everybody else. They went like this. They went, where? They'd just never heard of us. But we got that. We got that money. And the day after I'd been there, I came back and we were trying to raise money for a young girl called Katie Megan, I think it was Megan, by having a pancake race in King Street with businesses. So I put the Tommy the Trumpeter outfit on to compare it, and we were having fun. When a reporter came from the Gazette to cover it, and I didn't know, because I was naive. I didn't know that very big organizations have a cutting service. Do you know what a cutting service is? It's where somebody gathers everything that was ever in a newspaper and it's fed back to them so they can monitor what's being said. So big national institutions have this cutting service. Anyway, I'd finished the pancake race, and a reporter from the Gazette, Paul Kelly was his name, came over and he said, Ray, how did your meeting go? We all know you were going down to ask for money. How did it go? And I said, because I was in entertainment mode, I said, well, it was very similar to today's event. And he said, what do you mean? I said, it was full of tossers. And it wasn't until I went back to Great Peter Street that the guy who said, so you're Ray Spencer. We all read your comments about us. And then I realized, but they knew who I was. The next time I went down, they knew who I was. So we got, I think it was about $250,000, and that started to turn things around. But it's been very up and down since then. I'll shut up now.
No, it's fine. So like almost 25 years on, and you immediately started talking about money, trying to get money, trying to get funding, the gaps. Has it been like that all the way through your tenure here?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
The thing about having, and I'm sure you all face your own problems, so I'm not unique in having money. This part of the building is 150, 160 years old now, or coming up to 160 years old. Bits of it literally drop off, so we've just had to have some bits put back on by stonemasons. It's always very expensive to do that. The nature of the work that we do in big spaces using big electricity and big heating, and the sort of equipment that we use, if it goes wrong, and I'm sure anybody in manufacturing has the same issue, but if you have a genie lift go off, then you suddenly, well, is it 30,000? If one of the 2-3 lifts we've got in the building goes off, it's suddenly tens of thousands. So that's always a challenge for us. The council South Tyneside Council have been absolutely brilliant in supporting Customs House, and I'll be forever grateful to them, and I hope they continue when I'm not here. But they have been brilliant at supporting us, because particularly during lockdown, when it was just, I'm sure it was for everybody, it was just a nightmare. The council did keep us afloat without any question. So, there has always been an issue about money.
You said you did your degree, and obviously the art is very close to you, but then suddenly, you said you were a white collar. You almost have to be that businessman again, though, when you run an organization like this. How do you balance the two then, from having that no business experience, really?
Do you know, somebody who came up with a brilliant idea and has been very successful at it. If you've got ideas that work, there's another one there I can spot. There's another one there that I can spot. If you've got a good idea, then you can usually find somebody to give you some money to make it happen. Or if it's a really good idea, it will make you money to allow you to do other ideas. And we were blessed with the pantomime that made us enough money to help support us through the rest of the time when we struggled to make, and that business model has never changed, really. We all also, when I came here, and it's nothing I did at all, when I came here, I was the 5th director in 5 years. And the first director they appointed not only was not from the area, wasn't even from the country. So I think that was a bit of a fundamental mistake, to have a local facility that the person running it didn't understand the locality. And then we had various other people, and then I took over. And what I absolutely spotted was people have to own a place like this. And I don't mean that in physical shares, but they've got to care about the place. They've got to say that place is special to me and my family, and I am going to support it. So when push comes to shove, if people own what you do, you get all these hearts. Can you see all these hearts go down here, around here? Some of them are from companies, some are from schools, some of them from individuals, some remember people who have passed on. But this, in our darkest time, raised over £150,000. It was incredible what the local community did to help us. And the other thing that gives people ownership is when, if you, all those photographs on the wall this side are all our honorary fellows. And those are people who were born in South Tyneside, but went on to have a career in the business, or have worked in the business and come into South Tyneside to add something to what we do. And they have projected that ownership on other people. You know, if Joe and Joe McElderry and Sarah Milligan and Jason Cook and Chris and Rosie Ramsey and suddenly say, you should support it, we've supported it, helped us, you know, without them, we wouldn't be here. Then the bigger community have ownership. And I think we've managed to succeed in that, the ownership.
So if you had to summarise that, or the years you've been here, you know, what have you learned along the way?
What have I learned? I think somebody's always got it worse than you. I've learned that. There's always somebody to talk to who will say, when I was facing whatever it was, this is how I got through it. There are people who have launched off. I have huge respect for Eddie from Selpak. You know, he decided that he wanted to expand his business and he wanted to build his own factory, and it very nearly took him from us but he got it through, and now you've got a successful business. But it was your drive and determination. Jeff Ford was the same. And Jeff Ford, Ford Aerospace wasn't, and Ford Components struggled like hell for many times, and Jeff pulled it back, didn't he? And it was by his sheer will and determination that he did it, and that's what got you through, and it's what I think gets us through here at the Customs House. The sheer will and determination, and that's what I've learned from this. You've got to say, no, it's not going to beat us. It's not going to beat us, or beat us. Not me individually, but it's not going to beat us. And ask people who have been through it, who will have a cup of coffee with you and talk through it and say, do you know, when I was up to my eyes, this is what happened? Or have you thought about talking to X or Y or Z? Because they might help you. Because the community, every answer that you ever need to know is probably sitting in this room now, because for longer than I've done, and perhaps shorter than I've done, but people have come up with some brilliant ideas and survived and come through the other end. So the collective knowledge and experience is something that we should tap in and use.
Well, you bring us nicely onto the pledge then, because you're one of the first, or the Customs House one of the first to sign the pledge.
I just did it because it got him off the phone. Otherwise, do you know what I mean? It's just on the phone all the time.
I do know what you mean.
So, Ray, will you sign this? I think it's sometimes sad, isn't it, that we want to follow the pledge. I'll give you an example because I'm really disappointed about it. We've just had some new seats installed in the cinema, and they're lovely now. I'd recommend it. It's gorgeous up there now. So I went to the local seat manufacturer who's, I don't know, a mile from here, who do like casino seats and seats for cruise ships. And I brought them in and looked at the space and said, look, we want all new seats in here. And what is more, I have the money to pay for you. So it would be lovely to have South Shields seats for South Shields people. And they said, we don't need it. It's not big enough for us. So the seats upstairs are from Malaysia. I mean, that is a real sad thing to me, because I would have loved to have had that connection. But the tables that you're sitting at were manufactured in South Tyneside. Were manufactured at units up the road. So you can sometimes practically say to people, we can use you in that. And when you can do, otherwise we won't keep the money in the town, in the borough.
You touched upon highs and lows there. Do you want to give us a couple of through your 25 almost years
of highs and lows? Oh gosh, I think one of the low points is when we were closed during lockdown. That was a terrible time. We had to make people redundant, and if you've ever done it, it's horrible, isn't it? Because you realise it's somebody people's bairns that you're not going to feed. It's an awful time. But I came in here and we'd had a problem with the roof during lockdown, and the building wasn't open other than the office. And I used to come into the office on the other side and then occasionally have a walk around the building. Anyway, there was a bit of a storm and a guy went on the roof and he said, I've managed to get the problem solved on your roof, but I'd have a look what's underneath. And I said, what do you mean? He said, there's a hole in your roof and all of this rain has gone somewhere and all the gutters have emptied and it's all gone somewhere. So I went upstairs into the cinema and I walked into the cinema and thought, the light's not coming on. That was an odd thing. But as I walked, I could hear splashing water because the water from the roof had come straight through. But not only had it come straight through, but it had what we closed for 8, 10, 12 months, was it? All of that pigeon poo and dead seagulls to percolate it. And it came through and it absolutely stunk. And you could, as you walked through it. And I just looked round and I thought, how the hell are we going to do this? The building's costing £30,000 a month to just survive. We're not generating any income. This is before all the schemes and the handouts came. But it just looked like there was no way forward. I'm sure you all faced it. It looked like there was no way forward for us. And that looked disastrous. But of course, there was a way forward and we did get out of it and we are where we are now. Highlights, I'm not going to say too many, but because they're all at different levels, aren't they? I've been very lucky to have many. I think one of them would be Stephen Glynn, who was inspired by Captain Tom, I have to say, but a little lad with cerebral palsy who got a new walker at the start of lockdown and was asked to walk a mile in his new walker. And he got in touch with us and he said, I want to walk it for the Customs House because he comes to all the pantos and all the under 7 shows. And the first day we opened again after lockdown, Stephen walked from the top of the bank down to here on his walker with the street lined with people applauding him. And he raised £4,500 for us. And his photograph is up here. I think it's up here somewhere. A little gold heart is Stephen on there. He's certainly with the stars up there somewhere. And he still comes along. So that was real fantastic love for the place. That was brilliant. And I think the youth work that we do, the time I went to the National Theatre, when of all of the youth theatres in the country, we were down with our bands at the youth theatre at the same time as they were doing One Governor's, One Man, Two Governors, which had that guy who went on to do the chat show in America. I can't remember his name. James Corden. He was in. So the bands were going in the same stage door as James Corden, who was going that way, and they were going on here. And on the opening night of our show, this family had driven from the Woodbine estate down. They couldn't afford to stay, but they'd driven down in a converted ambulance because the man was wheelchair bound. So it was absolutely, the thing was battered to death. But they'd come down to see their band at the National. Man, fantastic. So those things, I think, yeah.
As you talk, it sounds like it's not a typical day for a director of a business. There's lots of stuff happens. So you couldn't summarize then? Like, what does a typical day look like?
I don't think it does, because I'm guessing all of you say, you know what I'm going to do? You're in bed, aren't you? You're in the shower, or the night before, or the day before. You say, when I get in, I'm going to move that stock, or I'm going to finish that bloody tax return, or I'm going to do the P45 for them, or I'm going to, don't you? And then you walk through the door, and the first person says, you'll never guess. And then suddenly you're off on a different direction, don't you?
Poor Susan's nodding away here.
But if you in any sort of business, it's like that. And every day there's something, and sometimes it's lovely, sometimes it's joyous. I often, because we're a public building, and I love the fact that anybody can come in at any time, and that's great. Sometimes people will walk through the door, and genuinely this happened to me. A guy walked through the door. Sadly, he's just recently died, but he walked through the door and he said, "Can I see Ray Spencer?" And I said, "Yes, of course you can." They said, the staff will say, "Oh yeah, we'll bring him across." And whatever I'm doing, it doesn't matter. We've said there's this woman and she wants to see you, and I might come across and she's going to complain like the ice cream's £2.50 a tub or something. But the same ice cream's £4.50 at the Sunderland Empire, I'm just telling you. So I came across, and there was this guy standing, and he said, "Hello, my name's Andy, and I want to put on a show." And I thought, oh, not another nutter. Honestly, I get them all the time. Absolutely. In the nicest, loving way. But oh man, there was a guy who lives not far from where we are, brought us this whole play that was going to be set in a German submarine. But he wanted it to float. Anyway, so this guy was here, and he was called Andy Bogle, and his photographs up there on the top. He's in the middle of the top row up there. And I said, "Hi, so you want to put on a play?" And he said, "Yeah, how much will it cost?" I said, "Well, what do you want to do? Ben Hur on Ice is going to cost you a lot more than a single person reading a poem. So you decide." And I was really being a bit dismissive towards him. And I found out that he'd worked on the Tyne, served his time, got into gas and oil, had moved around the world, but ended up living in Texas. And it developed submarine inspection equipment to go around the pipelines. He'd sold it like an episode of Suits, and this big deal. And now he was well-heeled. You know, he had a bit of money. I'd been politer to him if I'd known that at the start of the conversation. But I didn't. So he left. He said, "Well, I'm going to come back. I'm coming back in a few months, and I want to tell you about this idea." So he came back in a few months, and this was the idea he had. He said, "I've come back from America, and I'm shocked." I said, "What are you shocked at?" He said, "How much American spoken in this country. When I left South Shields, people had an accent. They knew what coin in the corner meant. See, nobody knows what coin in the corner meant. Do you know what coin? It means going around the corner, coin the corner. Anyway, he said, but the language is disappearing. Our phrases and terminology is disappearing. And he said it's not the first time it's happened. It happened in the 1890s when Oxford University paid somebody to come up and research the language because it was being taken away. And it was being taken away by all the Scottish and all the Irish that were moving in and bringing their own terminology. So he wanted to capture it. And a man called Oliver, and I can't remember, Oliver Heslop did these two books. He said, "I want to do a play about that time, and I want to celebrate the Geordie language, Geordie the musical." I said, "Okay, mate." I said, "But it's gonna be." He said, "Look, I'll give you 50,000 to start with." And he did. And we took the 50,000. And then he came back another day. He said, "I want you to tell my friend, this friend here, about what you're doing." And I said, "Oh, who's your friend?" I guessed he was Texan because he was very tall and wearing a Stetson. I said, "Who's your friend?" He said, "Oh, he's over in this country looking for fracking sites." That was genuinely what this man was here. And he was from Exxon Oil. He said, I'll not do the accent. He said, "Andy's telling me all the things that you're doing. Is anything that I can do to help?" And I said, "Well, if you've got your checkbook handy, you could give us a bit of money because it'll help us do this particular thing. And any money that we raise will involve young people, etc." he got a checkbook out and wrote a check out for $10,000 and said, is that okay? Getting trust. So from nowhere, this help came for us. And from the money we made from that, we were allowed to develop lots of other people. And then in the lockdown, it's true, in the lockdown, he rang us up. Bless him, he just died recently. And we had his celebration of his life in the town hall. Because not only did he help me, because people kept saying, where did he come from? Where did you get him? He helped a whole massive project in the Word, which collected all those words. And published it. He helped the Lytton Phil up in Newcastle. He gave them loads of money. He helped South Shield Football Club. We got him to be a shareholder in that. He helped the community massively. So we celebrated his life. And during lockdown, he rang us up. He was dead Geordie. We'd have an odd American, but he was dead Geordie. He said, Ray, I've had some things come up, so I thought it's only 25,000, but I'm going to send it across. It might help you. I said, thanks very much, Annie. That's brilliant. And he was like that all the time. He was so generous, but he came from here and he was dead proud of where he came from and what he'd done. And people like that make life easier and they understand what you're doing it for. So I've been lucky. I've met quite a few of those.
So in terms of the challenges the cultural sector has, then it's, it sounds like you've always faced challenges, especially financial. What do you think some of the opportunities were? I can remember we interviewed Alison from Northern Film. Lindsay, help me out here. Was it Northern
Film Northeast?
Yeah. Is that like an opportunity? Can we get involved in
it's
that?
It's massive. The development that in the Northeast with those 12 screens that are coming along will be huge. We're talking billions, not millions, that it'll put into the community. But what they found and what we found in the whole of the sector is after lockdown, people said, I don't want to work those long nights. You know how you work those long nights when you have to do a get out? That's after the show's finished and people are still here at 1 o'clock in the morning unloading. We don't do those anymore. And you know how your business works when other businesses is off? So you love your Christmas treat, don't you? Yeah. We don't get Christmas off. We get Christmas Day off, and because I fell asleep one day on Christmas Day, I now get Boxing Day off as well, because Trish told me I had to. But we work. High days and holidays is when we work. It's when our business is, and our staff don't want to do that now. So what we found is there's a gap in the technical side of the business, and we're doing really, by we I mean the whole sector, doing lots to encourage people, because it's not everybody goes, well, it's just that standing on stage and acting. There's a massive amount of work. It goes in marketing and finance, in chefing and barring, and in doing the technical bit and doing the computing bit. There's a huge load of opportunities for the cultural sector, and it drives in a lot of people come to the area because of it. The International Magic Festival that we have here at the Customs House fills up the Sea Hotel or the Little Haven for a week, and they're spending money in the town all the time. So or the big parades that we have, or the Sunday concerts that we have, or Andrew's at the back, so I better mention it, Jarrow Hall that we have, or the museum that we have, or or the fantastic work. There's a lot of stuff happens in South Tyneside, and it's drawing people in. And the big thing, and about bloody time that they've realised, is it's cheaper to do it in the Northeast. That doesn't mean you don't pay the right rates. I'm not saying you pay less. It's just, if you make something in London or Birmingham or Manchester, everything's a bother. Whereas now, you could make something here, right? We could make something here, television thing here, like Vera. You can go down the coast in a few minutes, have a river in a few minutes, have an industrial setting. If you want some mountains, it's going to take you 35 minutes to get to the mountains. Or if you want a wood, that'll take you 20 minutes in that direction. So suddenly these people who put these programs together are going, do you know why? Why are we having to have all the bother moving people around the south? Let's get them up here. But we've got to train our own people, because at the moment, if you go on the set of Vera, most of the people are brought up from the south to do it. We've got to develop our own young people and get people from the south to live here and come and work in our community. but it's a massive opportunity.
So in terms of the job, you've just been, you've given us a huge A to B of the job. There seems to be loads going on. What happens next then? So you're going to retire. Who's going to take the role? Can we share that?
I think that, well, first of all, I'm not going to retire. Right. Because I bet there's nobody in this room who've retired. You might change what you do. You might not want all the stress of what you do, but I'm not going to retire. I was talking to Westo Travel earlier, and they're talking about retire. They're not talking about retiring. What they're talking about is doing a bit more of the traveling, less of the selling. That's what they really want to do. So I don't want to retire. I still want to do things that I enjoy doing. So I happen to enjoy putting on a frock for 8 weeks of the year. I intend to do that. I happen to like doing talks to people. I happen to want to become, there's a fantastic art centre, which none of you will have been to, called Lawn Mowers in Pelaw. And it's run for and by adults with additional needs. I'm going to become a trustee for them. So I'm going to give them some of my time and do what you people do, you trustees, and I'm sure there's other trustees in the room. You give back, don't you? And there might be some use in what I've learned or what I know to other organisations. So I want to do that. But the other thing, and this is key, Trish, my other half, calls this place the mistress I've never had. She always knows where I am. So, and I lie all the time. And I'm sure everybody with a business does the same thing. So, the other week, there was a problem at work, but it was a weekend and I wasn't meant to be in. But I said, I'm just going to take the dog out for a walk. So I took the dog out from our house to the car. And then I drove down here and I spent 45 minutes sorting the thing out and thought, she'll be wondering I'm never out this far long with the car. But I put the dog back in the car, drove home, got in the house, and Trish said, did you have a nice walk? And she said yes. She said, I thought you might have got wet because it's been pissing down and the dog is bone dry. So she knew it would. So she's been fantastic. I couldn't have done anything. But after 33 years and 4 children and 3 houses and 1 dog, we're getting married in December. So we are going to do a bit of traveling.
Wow.
Just to help Westo travel out with a bit of business.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a bit of traveling. So that's some of the things I'll be doing.
In December?
We're getting married in December, yeah.
This December?
Yes, yeah.
Well, you've only got Christmas Day off.
Well, yes. And as I do 3 shows a day, it is going to be a bit of a disappointment if she wants her stockings filled. But but I meant that in the nicest sense. We actually have Mondays is our day off, and December the 11th is a Monday. So we're actually, Alfie Joey, who's in the pantomime with us, you might know Alfie used to do BBC Radio Newcastle. He's also an ex-vicar, an ex-priest, and he's a fascinating life. Alfie is going to loosely officiate over a celebration of our life. But I met Trish producing my first ever panto when I put the money in and employed the actors. And we did that one in 1990 in Bolingbroke Hall. Which is now flattened, but that's where Trish and I got together on December 13th, and that's flattened, and they put the registry office over the top of where we performed. So we're getting married there, and then a celebration here on the night off.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's I hope it's wonderful.
Should we take some questions from the floor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I probably talk
Nisha,
too much.
have we got a microphone maybe? So people listening at home, if we talk into the microphone, they'll be able to hear. So is it long? We've got like a long cable? Yeah. Who would like to go first? Who have we got? Question for Ray? Come on.
Nobody.
Oh, there's my dad. So I was watching my dad actually when you were talking about working.
Is that your dad?
That's my dad there.
What a cross to bear, you.
You were talking about white finger and your backs and all that, and he's nodding away, going, "Yep."
Good evening, Ray.
Hiya.
Oh,
is this on?
Yeah.
Yes, it's on.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, have you got to get married, Ray?
Do you know, I'm going to tell you a true story. I'm allowed to tell
Go
this.
for it.
It's a bit of a dodgy story.
That's fine.
But
it's
it
fine.
is true. After our fourth child, Trish said that I should have anything removed of any use. So I went to the hospital to have it done. And I was sitting in a side room, you know, with a bunch of men, as you do, waiting for this to happen. And the bunch of men were doing what men do, which is, you know, hope they've got a big knife for me. And they'll have to bring the whole team in, you know, all of that. And I was sitting quietly. Now, I don't know if you know, but I've spent a good part of my life taking the mickey out of people. And some months before this, I'd taken the mickey out of some prize winners at the National Health Service Awards. I'd forgotten about that. So I was sitting and the sister came round and said, so they were asking the boys, the 8 men were saying, what's your name? And I was saying, I'm Ray, and they're Dave. And so this person came round, this nurse, and she said, we're going to start with Tommy. The blokes are saying, Tommy, where's that come from? I said, oh, it's a long story. Don't worry about it. I used to sometimes be called Tommy. Tommy the trumpeter, for those who don't know. So she said, put this on. So I put it on. And the gown at the back it should have been like that. It was like that, honestly. She said, normally we're meant to put you in a wheelchair, but we're going to make you walk. So I walked down the ward getting abuse. And I walked round to the operating theatre, and a guy called Peter Waters, who was the guy that absolutely laced into it, the Staff Awards, was standing with 2 stainless steel hammers saying, I'm working this job today. So this is true. I was having that procedure. This is absolutely true. When I was Tommy the Trumpeter, we used to do a game called Betty Bob Bob Blue and Black Buttons. Anybody, does it have resonance with nobody?
Yeah.
Well, the child had to say it 10 times without making a mistake or get into trouble. So I was lying this is absolutely true. I'm not making it up. I was lying with the surgeon. He had a syringe in one hand, and you can guess what he had in the other. And he came to do that, and he said to us, he said, Ray, we take a team out to India every year to do operations. We're always trying to raise money. Is there any chance of some free tickets for the pantomime? Honestly, he could have asked for anything at that point, and he would have got them. But so he did that, and he's doing the thing. This nurse here and this nurse here are saying, should we have a go at Betty Bob Bob Blue and Black Buttons? And you can do the counting. So I'm down here and they're playing Betty Bob Bob Blue and Black Buttons above my head. That is absolutely true. So no, we're not getting married because we are with child. We have 4.
Questions for Ray? If not, I'm going to go into quiz mode with you.
All right.
Do you want to have a little think about quiz?
I've got one
here. Oh. Hold on.
Thank you. It was just what's going to happen at the Customs House once you move on?
Once I move on, well, it'll go from strength to strength. That's what happened. I'm really pleased that I was mentioning before that the stone was dropping down. We got some money to help us fix that up, which we've now done. And what happened when the place was refurbished in the 90s, they paid for a lot of lovely stonework to be replaced. Very expensive to get a stonemason to do it, but they put it onto the old building using iron rods. They should have used galvanized steel, so they've rusted. So as they rusted, they've gone tink, cracking the stone, and lumps were literally dropping down on the ground. So we've had those repaired now. So I'm very pleased about that. It was 168,000 and it's gone up considerably. That was the price during lockdown. Then the real thing happened. So I've done that. Upstairs, we have put in new seats in the cinema, which I mentioned. In January, we'll put new seats in the main auditorium, so we can have retractable seating, so we can have events on the level, like dinners or awards or a bit of a rave for Ron, you know, that we do that sort of stuff. So, and we've done Dalton's Forum, we've refurbed that. So I'm happy that the place will be in a good place. And I didn't want somebody to come in and like just mess it up, which I've seen potentially happening in some other places. I wanted people who understood us. So the board have made an appointment of 2 people, one who look after the learning and the participation and talent development and programming, and the other that will look after all of the staffing issues and all of the licenses and all of the operational issues. And those 2 people, one lives in South Shields and one lives in Bladen, but was born and bred in Jarrow. I think they have complementary skills. I think they have absolutely the right heart for the job. Fiona Martin and Kelly Anders. I think they'll do a terrific job. I'm really, really confident that they will. And if they have any problems at all, my day rate's reasonable.
You'll be here with a dog in the back of the car every day.
No, I won't. Honestly. When I do walk away, I do tend to walk away from things. And it's right that I should, because that would be terrible, man, wouldn't it? It would be like if you gave up West Road Travel and then came and just looked in the window at the deals. It wouldn't be fair. I'm not saying I'll never be in the building, because I love the building and I love art and stuff. So I will still come and do that, but it's not for me to interfere.
Good question. I tried to ask it and he just swerved it before. I thought he was not going to tell. Any more? More questions?
Andrew.
So, Fiona, was that a question?
Who's your biggest role model, right? Who you kind of found inspiration from over the last 25 years?
Other than you, Andrew.
Who was your biggest role model, Ray?
Gosh, that is a difficult question. I've met a lot of people, and I've admired many of them. And they all have different strengths. We had a guy here who was our chair for a number of years, called Bob Robinson. And Bob was a quantity surveyor, and he was chair of Customs House. He was also a committed Christian. So we disagreed on many things. And he used to always say it was, I know you don't believe, but I think you've been influenced by enough people who do. But Bob was just so committed to the place. And even after he stopped being chair, he was here, and he was always very, very supportive of the place. And he never seemed to want anything out of it. And I admire him. I admire Paul Callahan, who runs the Leighton Group. Paul's put in all the money into, not all of the money, but a good bit of money into Sunderland culture, and developed the fire station. And, you know, he put his money where his mouth was, and he's doing his best to turn that around. I admire a guy that you probably never heard of, called Graham Thompson. Graham, mum and dad ran a newsagent in Leggett, in Green Street in Leggett. He has been absolutely huge in the bringing of Fulwell 73 to Sunderland, to driving on the Royal Television Society, to bringing people to work and study at the university. He used to be managing director of Tyneside Telly. But he's done so much in ITV. He's just retired. He also still writes the pantomime with me. He lives in a little village in Yorkshire, but Graham and I go back many, many years. But he's unsung, and it's those unsung people who do things without people often noticing how much influence they're having on an area, and how much good they're doing. So I admire all of those, but I admire those people who we never see, who are doing the food banks, who are, you know, out on the streets as the angels, picking people off the street on a Saturday night. There's so many good people. And whenever I do the Love of South Tyneside Awards and I see the stories of the organizations and the people who live in our community who just do it because they love the people and love the area. I mean, it puts me to shame. I don't do enough. But I just, so I admire too many people, too many. I mean, you've made a living out of not having a proper job.
My mum asks me every week, what do you actually do? I'm like,
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Thanks for that. Any more? Should we go into quiz mode? Yeah, just so
I hope it's not hard.
No. Paul, you should have
It's
had
not
your
all
horn.
Katie Sue products, although I read about them every week.
Dear, are you on the email list?
I
for
get the
Katie
email.
Sue?
I don't think there's anybody who's not on the email. It's a very, whoever drew that list up. Is anybody else on Katie Sue listed on the? No. Yeah.
Rory.
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 Yeah.
Right, come on then. So you in the past, I've done a few different quizzes with you. You've got a choice this time, right? Okay, you've got the life and times of English diarist Samuel Pepys, French Gothic architecture of the 13th century, or South Tyneside facts.
Well, my second degree was Gothic architecture, so you must have looked that up. No,
We'll go for facts. Yeah,
We'll
we'll
go
go for
South
that. Right,
Tyneside
okay.
facts.
Right. South Tyneside is twinned with 3 sister towns. Can you name one?
I can name Wuppertal, Noisy-le-Sec,
You can.
and Epinay.
Well done. Bonus points.
I think I've been to 2 of those.
You've been to 2 of them.
I've been to 2 of those.
Good man. According to the 2021 census, the population of South Tyneside is
147.
I was going to give you 3 options.
All right, what is it?
That.
All right.
All right, well done. Where was the Gaumont Cinema?
The Gaumont was I don't know what they call it now. It was like a sports bar, Mile End Road, and on the corner.
Is that right? Right. Okay.
Is it still a sports bar? It's called the Charleston now, isn't it?
Right.
But
Okay.
it was there.
Yeah. Is that? Oh, yeah. We're giving him that one.
It used to be
Yeah.
glorious. I mean, it all became a nightclub, didn't it? But it used to be lovely.
All right. I'll take your word for it. Suter Lighthouse was the first lighthouse in the world designed and built to be powered by electricity.
Yeah.
Were you there at the? No.
I was doing the switch.
Well, what year was it opened? Right.
Oh.
I'm going to give you 3: 1825, 1871, and 1901.
I think it's done its 150th, so I'm going to say 1871.
You are right. What? He's doing well.
It's almost like I've lived here all my life.
I think we should go for the Gothic architecture one. Who was known as the father of English history?
Bede.
He was, yeah. What year did American boxer Muhammad Ali visit us?
1977.
Yeah. Good. Right. What metro station is after Bede?
Do you know, this way? Because it goes in 2 directions. I would say it'd be Simonside this way.
Yeah.
And that way it would be Jarrah.
Is that right? Jarrow? Yeah.
Jarrah that way and
Jarrah,
Simonside
yeah.
this way.
Is it not Jarrow? Or is it Jarrah?
It's Jarrah.
Oh, we're going Jarrah. We're going Jarrah.
Do you know, for some stupid reason, which I don't know why we've done it, we're doing, there's a song called I've Been Everywhere, Man, I've Been Everywhere, Man. You may have heard it. But the places that we've been are Gateshead, Peelo. Oh, I can't do it now. Gateshead, Peelo, University.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing all the list of the
For the
metro
Panto.
stations, yeah.
Oh, spoiler.
Alfie
alert.
does some and I do some.
Wow.
Yeah.
We all got tickets for the Panto, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're just not because you're
yeah.
embarrassed.
Mother Goose came out today for Friends, didn't it?
Mother Goose, do you know what? Mother
Just been
Goose
released today.
trustees. Well, we opened it to the Friends today. 2 things happens this time of the year. People ring me up, family and friends ring me up and say, "Is there any chance of 10 tickets for Christmas Eve?" And I say, "No." There isn't, because we don't have any. They're sold.
Yeah.
So that happened last night. It was for the 23rd of December, the one. Anyway, but today, Mother Goose went on sale just to our friends. And in the first 10 minutes, we did over £20,000 worth of business.
What?
Isn't that amazing? I thought it was amazing.
I got the text at 10:02, and I thought, oh, I've actually missed out, because they do go quick, don't they?
They do. I mean, we had some big group bookings straight in there.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I was really pleased with that.
3 questions to go.
Mhm.
We have a sculpture on Ocean Road of John Simpson Kirkpatrick.
Mhm.
Who was the sculptor?
Bob Ollie,
He was.
because we used to call it the man in the llama, because he looked more like a llama than a donkey.
Sorry, Bob. Yeah, this is live, right?
Yeah, and I love Bob, and he's a great mate. He's a great mate, but that's what we call him.
Yeah.
When I went to, my brother used to live in Australia. Sadly, he died last year. But when you go to Australia, he's a massive,
Is he?
massive figure.
Wow.
And when we opened the monument to him, well, it was to all those who died at the Dardanelles, but the monument next to the pier, if you haven't noticed that, the Australian High Commissioner came, and my brother happened to be over, and he went and he laid a wreath. It was
Oh,
special.
wow. Who is your favourite trustee of the Customs House?
There's 3 in the room. There's 3 in the room, so I can't get it wrong because it's my favourite. So I'm going
Right.
to say Margaret Fay.
Male, Trixie, male. Who's your favourite male?
Simon, just because
Simon,
he's a
okay.
laughing, jokey guy.
Who's
He's
it-
our finance guy. He's not at all.
Who's your favourite male between 45 and 48?
Eddie.
Right. Right. How long does it take the ferry to cross to the wrong side of the Tyne?
I think it's only 5 minutes.
No. Yes, you've got one wrong. Anybody want to throw one? 7. Yep.
7,
Well
all
done.
right.
Well done. Well done. When was the Customs House constructed?
This customs house, it started in 1863. It opened in 1865. It was refurbished between 1993 and 1994.
Well, you've scored 99%, and you were helped out. Well done.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well done. That draws our event to a close.
Well, thank you very much for coming along, and I'm sorry for driveling on. When he asked us, I just sat here and spoke.
Is there anything that we haven't said that we should say?
I don't think so. Thank you for living and working in South Tyneside, because I think it's a fantastic place. And what I genuinely see, because we see people moving into the area quite a bit here, is there's a lot of people discovering South Tyneside. Not just these houses that are coming along, but the people here, the Law Top, and we're meeting a lot of people who are resettling into South Tyneside, and that is about bloody time. I'm so pleased. If we can just get the offer right, it's going to be, I don't want it to become a dormitory town, but it's going to be an exciting place to live, to work, and bring up your children, and the riverside's going to be brilliant.
Great place to end it. Thank you much, Ray Spencer.
Thank you very much.